دكتور أحمد أنت معنا؟ تفضل.
الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله ومن والاه. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. اللهم اجعل أمرنا هذا سهلا سهلا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Dear brothers, I'm talking about something perhaps everybody knows about it. However, it is very important and everybody is certain about it. In fact, the idea, the topic itself just came to my mind yesterday. I was driving to give the Friday khutbah in a mosque. It's a bit far, it's about 44 kilometers, sorry. And in my way, there was an accident in the motorway. And over a distance of more than 100 meters, you'll find the scattered pieces of metal from cars. You're colliding with each other. There's a car crash. And that caused a delay. And you can see the consequence of that accident. I mean, the cars themselves, they are just dismantled and thrown on the highway. Just imagine what happened to the people in these cars. And a few days, in fact, before that, there was an announcement in some of the groups that one of the people or Muslim in our Muslim community passed away. I know the person, but I don't remember the full name. I just know the first name. So I didn't recognize who is that person until I was passing just in front of his house. And I noticed that there was a sign for sale. Then I asked, what's happened? They say he passed away. So I'm talking about the subject of death and how that certain thing, someone could be a bit busy thinking about it and suddenly he will encounter it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that كل نفس ذائقة الموت. Every soul shall taste of death. وإنما توفون أجوركم يوم القيامة. Your wages for whatever deeds you did in this life will be paid in full on the day of judgment. So what is that wage? فمن زحزح عن النار وأدخل الجنة فقد فاز. So the actual wage is to win Jannah and to be displaced away from him. Otherwise, the alternative will happen, that one could end in hell. We seek refuge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from being distant to him. So in my way, just I gave the khutbah about death. And I found it is a good subject that we need to think about it. The Prophet ﷺ told us, أكثروا من ذكر هادم اللذات. Mention or increase of your mention and your remembrance to the demolisher of pleasure or the severer of pleasure. What's that severer of pleasure or demolisher of pleasure? It is death. Why we need to increase remembering death? As the Prophet ﷺ said that whenever you mention it and you are in tight situation, that situation will open for you. And if you are in an open situation, if you are happy, or if you feel that you are living in leisure and pleasure, that will tighten it a bit for you. why we need to tighten and expand the situation, why we need to go out from the state of pleasure, and why we need to relax the state of distress. Because this is death. This is the maximum disaster, as you can say, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described it as musibah. The death is musibah, disaster, catastrophe. So remembering death, if you are in a tight situation, you feel that your situation is much less disastrous than death. And if you are in very last situation, death will bring you back and think about it. So don't go away from the certain inevitable event, which is death. So thinking about death is something we need to consider in our life, because everyone will end to that situation. Everyone will die. Is it everyone will die? Yes, everyone will die. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasized that in many places. كل من عليها فان. Everything on top of this earth will perish. And this is very general, very general. كل من عليها. It is, as they say, mutlaq. It is not restricted to men or animals or fish or trees or atoms or electrons or photons. Everything on the earth will perish, will end. And in fact, we see that with our eyes. It's not something ambiguous for us. Everything will end. And we see that every day. Things are ending, whether human being, animals, trees, and we see even things that end, then reappear again, end, then reappear again, and so on. I mean, now it is almost winter time or close to winter time. And we see the trees that used to be blossoming and full of flowers and green trees a few months ago. Now all the trees are falling down, and you look to the tree as if it is dead. So this situation reminds us with death, but also reminds us with something even more important than death itself, which is resurrection, life after death. You can see the earth in winter time, cold weather, and we find it a kind of dead. وترى الأرض هامدة فإذا أنزلنا عليها الماء اهتزت وربت. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us how resurrection happens, or an example of death and resurrection. You see the earth, nothing there, as if dead. No flowers, no plants, no greenness, nothing. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the water, and you will find it, everything is going, everything is resurrected again. Similar to that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will get us dead, then we will be resurrected on the hereafter, in the day of resurrection. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us examples of death, even in ourselves. That the example of, or something simulation of death, or something similar to death, is at the time of sleeping. That almost we are like dead. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling us how is that simulated death is happening. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take the soul, whether dead or sleeping. So the soul is there with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during the time of death and during the time of sleeping. However, those who are just sleeping, Allah will send the soul back again and will resume life. Allah يتوفى الأنفس حين موتها. Allah will gather the souls at the time of death. والتي لم تمت في منامها. And those soul lives that are not destined to death, Allah will gather the souls at the time of sleeping. فَيُمْسِكُ الَّتِي قَضَى عَلَيْهَا الْمَوْتِ. Those who are destined to death will hold the souls, not come back, finished. وَيُرْسِلُ الْأُخْرَى إِلَى أَجَلٍ مُسَمًّى. And the others that are still, they just get up from sleeping, will send the soul to these bodies and resume life. So the concept of death and coming back to life is not strange. And we see it around us, and we see it in ourselves. However, what is more important is what is after death. This is al-ghaib. This is, we didn't see anybody who was dead, then came back to us telling us his experience. And many people before Islam, their main problem is after death. فإذا متنا وكنا ترابا ذلك رجع بعيد. This is their conclusion or their understanding. If we are dead and became dust, our return is impossible. So this is the difference between a believer and a non-believer, that will believe on the day of resurrection, the day of the hereafter. And this is the important aspect of our faith, that life is not ending by our death on this earth, but this is a start of another phase of being resurrected again in the day of resurrection. The Prophet ﷺ was asked about Man akyas an-nas, who is the most or the shrewdest among people or among believers, who is the most clever. He said the most clever is the one who remembers or mentions death more, and the one who works for that more. So the one who remembers death, but not ignoring about what's after it, or knows death and remembers death and works towards that end. Many people will hate death. Nobody will love death. Even the one who is very biased, and he is doing everything perfect. No one likes death. And even the Prophet ﷺ is telling us, don't wish death. So looking for death is not something commendable, even if you think that you are doing everything fine. And also this is in our instinct. Everyone would like to escape from death. Everyone wants to live long, because it is the nature of human being, the self-defense, how to protect yourself, that you hate death and you fight against it, because this is how you need to survive. However, this should be tamed, this nature should be tamed by hoping that what's coming in the hereafter is better than what we have in this life. And we have been promised lots, much better than what is in this life, which is Jannah. And in Jannah, there is something that we never hear, that we never saw before, and never even came to our mind what could be the amount of pleasure in Jannah compared to whatever life we have here. So in fact, everybody was asking why we hate death. And one time, one of the caliphs, Suleiman, came during Hajj time and he visited Medina. He asked about anyone who lived or who met some of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. They told him there is one called Abu Hazm. So he called him and asked him a few questions. One of them, the main thing is that, why do I hate death? He told him that because you established your stay in this life and you ruined the hereafter. And nobody wants to move from the established situation to a ruined situation. Here you are building and hoping that you'll survive forever. But there you do not prepare. You do not build anything for the future. That's why a person will be afraid of moving from this established situation to unknown, ruined situation. There is advices about how one should prepare himself for the after death. I mean, the heart is something that you can manipulate it and you can tame it by your actions and by your experiences. So if your heart is tied to the pleasure of this life, you think this is the top of pleasure. Death will prevent me from this pleasure. So you will not be looking forward to Jannah. So the more you are inclined to the pleasure in this life, the less you will be looking forward to the pleasure in the hereafter. The same, being clinging to whatever wealth you have, that will not give you the taste of donating, of giving charity, of spending on the poor, because you are holding everything. You want to increase whatever you have. So even if you pay zakat, for instance, you start calculating to the least penny and give that zakat. Although you don't like to give it unless it is an obligation. So you don't taste you don't feel the taste of giving because you want the money in your hand. The more you confine your life dedicated for your family and your four kids, the pleasure of being involved in jihad will not be tasteful as if you are balancing the situation. I don't say that don't care about money or don't care about this life or don't care about your family and kids, but there's a balance. While you look after this, you consider the other things. Yes, I am working, I want to get money, that's fine. But also, they are poor who couldn't get money. And I feel the pleasure when I give them. I like this life. I want to establish this life. I want to build something for me, for my kids, for my future in this earth. However, I should not think about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is building for us. It's much more than what we are building here. So it is a matter of balancing it. Not to be absorbed in your achievement in this life and ruining the hereafter. Also, we have many targets and many objectives in this life. We hope to do this. We are looking forward to do that. We have many ambitions and many objectives to achieve in this life. And our life is confined. We're not living forever. So what is our target towards the hereafter? Is it given at least the same weight as our objective on this earth, in this life, or ignored in the large amount of objectives and tedious work to achieve these objectives in this life? And that will diminish. I mean, if we are involved in this life, that will diminish our effort of working for the hereafter, especially if we work and achieve and go for another objective, do achievement and so on. Perhaps that will be dragging us to the pleasure of this life and forgetting about the pleasure that we could achieve even much better than what we have in this life. So we come again to the point, is it certain that we are going to be resurrected after this life? I mean, this is the important question. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us an example in the Quran. أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الْإِنسَانُ أَنَّا خَلَقْنَاهُ مِنْ نُطْفَةٍ فَإِذَا هُوَ خَصِيمٌ مُبِينٌ. Do not man see that we created him from a drop of sperm, and he is a big challenger to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَضَرَبَ لَنَا مَثَلًا وَنَسِيَ خَلْقَهُ. And he started an argument and he forgot about his own creation. He forgot he was nothing, and he became a man and arguing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قَالَ مَنْ يُحْيِي الْعِظَامَ وَهِيَ رَمِيمٌ. Who will give life to these bones after they decay and become rotten? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is answering, قُلْ يُحْيِيهَا الَّذِي أَنْشَاهَا أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. The one who will give life to these bones is the one who created it on the first time. And the first creation, normally when you do something first time, it will be more difficult than doing it a second time, a third time, and so on. So قُلْ يُحْيِيهَا الَّذِي أَنْشَاهَا أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ وَهُوَ بِكُلِّ خَلْقٍ عَلِيمٌ. He did not create things and he doesn't know how to recreate them again or to bring them back again. He is knowing everything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّا كُلَّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَاهُ بِقَدَرٍ. It is not haphazard or random. Everything is designed well. So resurrecting the dead, just follow the design. The design is there. Re-implement that design. It's easier than the first time. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون. You see these trees with the green leaves, you make fire from it. How things change. You are making it to die. أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض. The one who created earth and heaven. Is he not able to create something similar? So the issue of resurrection after death, this is a pillar in our faith. and always the pillars of faith. They are, faith in the unseen. We believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We didn't see him, but we see the effect of having God, having a creator, having a designer who designed this, what we see. So looking around ourselves, we believe that there is a creator for this. إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب. So anyone who has the capability, the intellect to think and analyze, he will reach to a conclusion that behind this creation of earth and heaven and the alteration of day and night, there is a creator. So believing in Allah, believing in the messengers, that they are truthful, again, it is unseen. We didn't see the Prophet ﷺ for us. Maybe the companions did see him, but they did not see the angel coming and reciting the Quran for him. But they believed him. They believed him because they saw things, saw miracles happening. So the guidance that he is guiding them is effective and infallible. Now, we didn't see them, we didn't see all these things that they saw, but we see something, we see the Quran in our hand, and we see that it is, the more we study the Quran, the more we go deep into it, we find that it is infallible and it is miraculous. It is not something that anyone can do it. And telling things that nobody knows. And knowing that this Quran was revealed to a person living more than 14 centuries back, and he was illiterate. And even most of the people around him were illiterate. So they are not scholars in science and technologies and whatever we have now. So they are just illiterate. They didn't know even about previous religions. I mean, Jews and Christians are very scarce, or very rare, in Mecca, where the Prophet ﷺ was born and raised. Jews were close to Medina, but not to Mecca. And the contact at that time, they don't have social media and phones and all these things that we have. And coming with a Quran over 23 years with verses coming from different, or directing or aiming at different directions, collecting them, putting them in different places, and what we see as surahs and verses and so on. All that matching together in very fabulous and very miraculous book that is a guidance for the people at that time, a guidance for the people of this time and all the times. You cannot say that this verse doesn't concern me now. Everything is guidance, if we understand it. It needs some effort to understand it. Just looking at the time, I think some more minutes. Also, I mean, all the people who are concerned about the hereafter, they will have the question in their mind. And they worry about death. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, everyone knows about how pious he was. And we call him that he's the fifth guided caliph. He was asking some of the scholars at his time, and he told him, advise me give me, admonish me, tell me what to do. He said, "Oh, Omar, you will die." So this was the advice. You will die. What else? He said that all your parents, your ancestors, your father, the one before him, up to Adam, all of them died, and you will die. He said, yes, this is the admonition. Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu used to say, كفى بالموت واعظا يا عمر. Death is ample, is enough to be a real admonishment for everyone. Believing in death is not a problem. Everyone will see it. Everyone knows, everyone is certain that he will face it. What's important is what we prepared for that and what we are hoping after that. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make the end of our life the best in our life, and to make what is after life Jannah, and the pleasure, permanent pleasure, that is compensating us for whatever difficulties we have in this life and overweighing all the pleasures we had. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.
جزاك الله خير الجزاء على هذه التذكرة العظيمة والله شيخ محسن.
جزاك الله خير والله يا دكتور، ربنا يبارك فيك. نسأل الله سبحانه وتعالى أن يتقبل دعائك إن شاء الله وهذه الموعظة. يا الله سبحانه وتعالى إن شاء الله make the end of our life is the best of our deeds. اللهم آمين. جزاك الله خير. جزاك الله خير.
Any questions from anyone? I have a question. I'll ask it for ask both you and Sheikh Mahsen. One of the dua Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to say, أعوذ بك من فتنة الموت وفتنة الحياة. فتنة الحياة أعرفها، يعني whatever things we may come across in terms of temptation. ما هي فتنة الموت؟
فتنة الموت في الحقيقة يعني هو أعمال الإنسان في الدنيا سيراها في قبره. يعني هو الإنسان في القبر سيدخل عليه الملائكة الحساب بأشكال مخيفة، فيسألهم من أنت؟ فيقول أنا عملك. أيضا في آيات في القرآن، ولو ترى إذ الظالمون في غمرات الموت والملائكة باسطوا أيديهم أخرجوا أنفسكم اليوم تجزون عذاب الهون بما كنتم تقولون على الله غير الحق وكنتم عن آياته تستكبرون.
نعم بس هذه يعني احنا نتكلم على الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم يستعيذ من فتنة الموت، وهو يستعيذ من فتنة القبر مثل ما تفضلت، بس يستعيذ من فتنة الموت.
هو الموت نفسه يعني ليس فقط الموت نفسه هو الفتنة، وإنما وقت الموت.
نعم.
that to come to death هو to come to death with something that will make your death bad omen, that will make the death something horrible.
نعم.
ولو ترى إذ يتوفى الذين ظلموا الملائكة يضربون وجوههم وأدبارهم. يعني during the time of death there is a difference between the one who is good and the one who is bad. And this is the fitna at the time of death. Maybe Sheikh Mohsen mumkin to add something.
جزاك خير. I think exactly as you said. I mean there's I think Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen and others, they said the fitna of death in this hadith, it could be like has two meanings. The first meaning is the question by the malaika in the graveyard. And there's hadith the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, السؤال في القبر يعني أقرب ما يكون من فتنة المسيح الدجال. So it's the being asked and the questions of the two angels in the night or first night maybe, or the graveyard is strong or heavy as the fitna of Dajjal. And I think the other one as well, which is related, the other opinion is, or the other meaning, it could be, when the person, when the Malak al-Maut, the angel of death, he like visits to take the soul of the person, Shaitan try to deceive the believer and try to take him away from, from saying the Shahada. And I think maybe this could be like closer to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. إغواء الشيطان. الشيطان يحول بين العبد وبين حسن الخاتمة. So the shaitan always work hard. This is the best moment for the shaitan. If he succeeds, so will be so happy. If the person dies in a state of والعياذ بالله nifaq, or a state of sins. And the hadith of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, إن أحدكم لا يعمل بعمل أهل الجنة حتى ما يكون بينه وبينها إلا ذراع فيسبق عليه الكتاب فيعمل بعمل أهل النار فيدخلها. هي دي بقى وسوسة الشيطان. The person spend his life working or doing good, and then in the end he doesn't have this beautiful end, because maybe Allah knows سوء الخاتمة, because of the shaitan maybe work at this time. So this, I think this could be the meaning, because we have, as you said, we have fitnat al-mahya, fitnat al-mamat, and another hadith, fitnat al-qabr. So I think this could be more related to the meaning. fitnat al-mamat is the waswasit al-shaytan أو إغواء الشيطان from حسن الخاتمة. الله أعلم.
جزاك الله خير الجزاء. شيخ احنا وصلنا ساعة 8:30، إذا ممكن تختم المجال.
جزاك الله خير once again Dr. Ahmed, بارك الله فيك for this touching reminder. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant all of us inshallah protection from the fitna of al-mahya, fitna al-mamat, and the fitna of al-qabr. Allahumma ameen. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Wal 'asr, innal insana lafi khusr إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
جزاكم الله خير الجزاء. إن شاء الله نشوفكم السبت القادم
إن شاء
بإذن
الله.
الله. إذا الله يحفظكم and protect you from this new variant of COVID إن شاء الله.
اللهم آمين أجمعين يا رب أجمعين. اللهم
اسمه اوميكرون هذا.
Sheikh Mohsen, make dua for Dr. Malik, Professor
Yes.
Malik in the hospital.
Yes, wallahi, Dr. Malik is he deserves our dua, and he's a very important person, subhanAllah, to us, and he's one of the regular people. This halaqah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah grant him health and cure him. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring him back to his family and to all of us inshallah safe with al-afiyah inshallah. نسأل الله العلي العظيم رب العرش العظيم أن يشفيه. اللهم رب الناس أذهب عنه البأس واشف أنت الشافي لا شفاء إلا شفاؤك شفاء لا يغادر سقما. اللهم رب الناس أذهب عنه البأس واشف أنت الشافي لا شفاء إلا شفاؤك شفاء لا يغادر سقما. اللهم رب الناس أذهب عنه البأس واشف أنت الشافي لا شفاء إلا شفاؤك شفاء لا يغادر سقما. اللهم اشفه وعافه اللهم اشفه وعافه. اللهم متعه بالصحة والعافية ورده إلينا وإلى أهله معافا سالما غانما يا رب العالمين. اللهم امين. وصلى الله وسلم على محمد وعلى اله وصحبه وسلم.
جزاك الله خير الجزاء. جزاك الله خير ظفر.
السلام عليكم.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله
وعليكم
وبركاته.
السلام ورحمة الله.
سلام.